I watched the first episode of Season 3 not knowing anything about this show. I have questions, a bit of context. I avoid horror media, and I wouldn't have watched it if it weren't for my friend playing it in the living room. Unfortunately, the ending had me hooked, and I want to know what happens next. I haven't watched anything else yet. I am new to the horror genre, and recently found out I enjoy psychological horror and thrillers. I'm afraid of supernatural or paranormal stuff like ghosts, zombies, monsters, disjointed body parts, creepy dolls, etc. I think I can handle gore now, thanks to the boys. I dislike jump scares, but I've come to realize they are inevitable. It's good exposure therapy. Based on the above, should I finish Season 3 to satisfy my need to know what happens and move on, or start at the beginning, Season 1, and work my way up? Are there seasons I should definitely avoid? Is this show even for me? Thanks a lot for your thoughts. If you're not into watching any of that stuff, it scares you, this may not be the show for you. Season 3 literally includes all of the things you mentioned. In my opinion, it's the best season, but maybe you should sit this one out. I think you should watch Young Sheldon. Seriously, like the list of things they don't like or can take is practically every single thing out there. Just turn on Bluey. This sent me, you don't need to start at Season 1, you can continue with Season 3. The show does have lots of supernatural stuff though. I would say start at Season 1 and work your way up. Congrats on finding the show, you won't be disappointed. Edit. I think this show is for anyone that likes drama. There are horror aspects in each season and themes that may be off-putting to say the least, but the drama is there from beginning to end, and it will keep you hooked. Enjoy. I honestly don't think this season is that scary compared to others, and IMO it's the best. I think you should continue watching maybe the second episode and see how you feel. You might end up liking it. Parallels start in Season 4, so watch the first 3 seasons as a starting point. They're the most praised. Everything after that is a bit of a mixed bag. Though it's a horror series, nothing is that much of a brutally horrifying horror. Well, apart from few scenes here and there. It has a lot of camp elements throughout the seasons, if you're into that. Crazy how this season is literally the only one that has every single thing you're afraid of. I would still keep going. I used to be the same with horror, and AHS is kind of a comfortable gateway into it, similar to how you describe The Boys and gore. There's easily enough comic relief to keep you from feeling too on edge. Every single season, except Season 7, has elements of paranormal/supernatural, and some are gory. If you are trying to avoid all the things you mentioned in your post, there is very little of this series you could watch without encountering your above list. Season 7 could be good for you, though. It definitely fits the bill on psychological terror, LOL. I'm always so tripped out by people who prefer the horror or real-life situations that are more likely to happen to you than the horror of ghosts and such, which are far less likely to happen, LOL. I know it's just a personal preference, but true crime or psychological stuff sometimes is way worse than the supernatural for me. I just imagine someone coming into my house and murdering me, LOL. Everything you listed is in Season 3. They have a monster, paranormal, zombies, creepy dolls, and disjointed body parts. However, if you are starting to get into horror and keep exposing yourself to it, you could end up really enjoying it. I used to be against horror movies/shows, now that is the main genre I watch. I will say AHS is pretty tame though. Since you said you're fine with gore, the TV series Slasher would be good for you. And it's like AHS, you can start at any season. Each season is its own story. They're all in the same universe. I started with Apocalypse, and then Hotel, Murder House, Asylum, Freak Show, Coven, Cult, Roanoke, 1984, Red Tide, Death Valley, NYC, Delicate. Starting with Apocalypse is the worst thing you can do. Unless you've seen Coven and Hotel, you will never appreciate Apocalypse for all its glory. You should not recommend this to anyone else. Yeah, I know that now. I love Apocalypse so much. There have been times I've just watched it on its own. But I'm also a nerd enough I watched Murder House, Coven, the Queenie Hotel episode, then Apocalypse starting when the Warlocks discovered Michael. All of the things you listed as scoring, you are going to pop up in Season 3, just so you know. It's one of my favorite seasons, though. With all things considered, this series will not be your cup of tea then. However, I will say that Season 3 is probably the most mild in my opinion of all the seasons in AHS. That and Delicate. I actually hated horror before this show and now it's in my top genres, LOL. You got this. You guys? I'm too lazy to go to my browser and search for this answer. Can you refresh my memory and let me know if this season is Coven or Asylum? I would have started from season 1, as it's not only the best season, but later on in other seasons you'll see how every season is connected, especially seasons 1 and 3. Coven was a great season, and my second favorite only to season 1. I'd start it from season 1 and watch through in order. Just my opinion as a fan since the original airing of the series back in 2011. I wouldn't expect that zombies would scare you more than gore. They're zombies. There are sort of creepy dolls, but it's just that one character collects dolls. There's nothing supernatural about them. And there's a ghost. Except also not a ghost. But definitely a ghost sometimes. More ghosts in other seasons. Season 3 has a reference to Season 2 where you basically get to see Sarah Paulson do a Pro-ZD skit. You might have already seen it since it's one of the last scenes. This was early enough that it was before they started attempting to make Kingdom Hearts lore, so other seasons are not significant here. Also, if you do watch it but end up not liking the through line, just know that so many of the other seasons are worse at that. LOL. I don't like horror, but I love AHS. Season 6. Roanoke is the scariest one IMO. I will always recommend starting at the beginning because there are little connections and Easter eggs in most seasons. But it's not completely imperative. You need to stop and start from the beginning. It'll become important later. Most of the seasons are connected in one way or another until you get to Season 9. You will be totally confused by the end of Season 8 if you don't start from Season 1.